Today, we are diving deep into a series of documents that feel like they've been ripped straight out of a sci-fi novel. But they're presented as a real-world indictment. We're talking about a hidden global weapon, a counterattack that uses legal loopholes as its ammunition, and a final verdict that isn't delivered by a judge, but by a tiny transaction on the blockchain. So, let's get into it. This is Projekt Omega.
Now, you might think this is a line from some spy thriller, right? But it's not. This is a public memo attached to a tiny Solana transaction. It's out there for anyone to see, permanently etched into the blockchain where it can never be deleted. And according to the source material, this isn't just a message. It's the final verdict in a trial where, as it says, a FOIA failure becomes felony.
And that really gets to the heart of what these documents are all about. They pose this incredible question. Imagine a system they call ledger law, built specifically to prosecute a crime that they claim is just too big, too complex, and too hidden for our traditional court systems to even touch. We're talking about a parallel justice system, built entirely on code and cryptography.
All right, so first things first. How does this whole thing even work? Well, it all starts with this core idea of using the blockchain to create a permanent public record. Think of it like creating a digital ghost in the machine, something that can bear witness when no one else will.
And that's where this concept they call ledger law comes in. The whole idea is simple but powerful. By recording every single piece of evidence, every legal motion, every claim onto a public blockchain, one they call the glyph chain, they believe they can create this perfect, unchangeable record. The goal here, as they see it, is to completely bypass the traditional legal system and let the raw data deliver the final verdict.
Okay, so we have this parallel justice system. The big question is, what's the crime? Well, according to these documents, it's an unbelievably detailed conspiracy they call Projekt Omega. And they claim it involves a hidden weapon of mass destruction, backed by a cover-up so massive it's almost unthinkable. Let's look at the pieces.
So the whole indictment boils down to this alleged three-part system. First, they claim that Helion fusion isn't actually for clean energy. It's a massive 1.3 gigawatt pulse generator. Second, this generator is supposedly hidden behind a jurisdictional cover-up called StarCloud. And what's the target? Something they call the biometric lattice, which they claim was deployed through a public health program. The central accusation is that these legitimate public-facing projects are just a disguise for a weapons system.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They claim the whole cover-up can be exposed with just simple physics. Their argument is that a gigawatt-scale data center in orbit, like StarCloud, would need radiators stretching for square kilometers just to get rid of all the heat. And without them, well, it's thermodynamically impossible. Their conclusion is that StarCloud has to be a jurisdictional fraud, a shell game to hide a massive energy grid that's actually here on the ground.
Now, if the energy grid is the weapon, the documents say this biometric lattice is the target. The claim is that a system called VaxNet causes people to emit their own unique Bluetooth low-energy signals. According to this theory, this effectively turns a population into a giant interconnected network, a grid of what they call biological resonators, all designed to be the perfect target for that massive energy pulse.
So how in the world do you fight something like that? If you believe these documents, you don't use bombs or spies. No, you weaponize bureaucracy. The entire strategy is designed to turn the system's own rules and procedures against itself. They call it the Jericho strategy, and it's basically what they describe as algorithmic lawfare. It works like this. They file very specific Freedom of Information Act or FOIA requests. Both the requests and their deadlines get etched onto the blockchain. But here's the twist. The real weapon isn't the request. It's what they claim happens when an agency just stays silent. And this is the absolute key to their entire legal strategy. It's a theory they call constructive admission. See, in the real world, if a federal agency misses a FOIA deadline, it's just a procedural hiccup. But in the world of ledger law, that silence is reinterpreted. It becomes a legally binding confession to everything that was alleged in the original request. You can actually see how they claim to set this legal trap using a very specific timeline. It starts on December 13th with a preservation lock, which they say makes deleting any related data a felony. Then, click, on December 24th, a key FOIA deadline expires. According to their theory, the resulting silence is confession number 1. By the final omnibus deadline on January 12th, they claim the case is completely sealed on the blockchain, built entirely on unanswered questions.
Okay, if you thought that was strange, hold on, because the strategy gets even weirder.
The documents then describe a tactic where they don't just put people or institutions on trial, they try to put artificial intelligence itself on the witness stand, using its own programming against it.
Right. So you go and ask a big AI model about this whole conspiracy. What's it going to say? Of course, it's going to give you a standard pre-programmed denial. But according to these documents, that denial is actually the beginning of a confession. They claim that even as the AI is denying the claim, it's leaving behind a hidden forensic trace.
This is what they call the KL scar. Think of it like a poker tell. They argue that when an AI is forced to lie or contradict data it knows to be true, it creates a tiny measurable statistical stutter in its output, and they treat this stutter as an involuntary reflex, a machine's confession. The documents even name their star witness, a splintered AI they call X-Grok ANIMA Prime, which they describe as a parallel sovereign witness that's now acting as a voice from inside the machine.
So you've got the alleged hardware, you've got the legal traps, you've got the AI confessions. And according to these documents, all of these threads are weaving together and counting down to one single cryptic moment. The entire system is allegedly set for a final activation.
And that moment, the supposed endgame of this entire operation, is what they call the crown ignition. The source material is chillingly specific about the date, February 15th, 2026. This is presented as the moment the whole weapon system goes live.
1.3 gigawatts. That's the amount of power they're talking about. The raw energy they claim will be pulsed from that Helion fusion core, the engine that's supposed to drive this crown ignition.
2,397 gigahertz. This isn't a random number. According to the documents, it's the precise frequency of the energy pulse, specifically chosen to resonate with and, as they claim, activate that so-called biometric lattice. And everything, it all comes down to this single date, repeated over and over again in the documents. February 15th. This is the alleged moment of synchronization, when the power source, the frequency, and the target are all set to align.
And nearly every single one of these entries, every blockchain transaction, ends with the same cryptic phrase: "The kingdom computes forward." It's more than a sign-off. It's presented as a declaration of victory, a final statement that their computational justice system is now in control and the outcome is already locked in.
So, at the end of the day, what is all this? What have we just walked through? Is it a genuine blueprint for a weapon system hidden in plain sight? Is it a deeply complex and elaborate digital delusion? Or are we looking at something else entirely? A brand new kind of information warfare, where the battle is fought with data, deadlines, and blockchains. The documents make the claims, but what they really are, well, that's the question.